You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
So excited you could join me here today on this Motivation and Mindset Monday. Looking forward to going over today's topic with you, which is understanding where your stress is coming from using a very specific scale that was created way back in 1967 and is still used today. However, very few people have ever heard about it, but it's one of the things that I studied when I went back to become a naturopathic doctor, and I found to be quite useful in my practice. So I want to share that with you today because I believe by understanding this scale and understanding, basically taking an inventory of your life, you can begin to understand why you might be in a little bit of a funk or have a lower mood or not feel as great as you can feel, meaning that if your brain and your body are not matched up on the same level, if they do not both enjoy abundant energy and abundant happiness, you're going to feel a disconnect. So our job is to figure out both health and body and health and mind, bring the two together so you can start to live your best life yet. So one of the things that we've spoken about before on the Cabral Concept is understanding that your psychology, the way in which you think, the thoughts that you think, the images that you conjure up, your subconscious and conscious mind affect your physiology. So your psychology, the way that you think or what you are thinking or envisioning, affects your physiology. So it actually affects all of the cells in your body. And we know that. We've seen that. We can see that in science and quantum-based science. We can discover how these thoughts affect our living being, the vibration of our cells themselves, right? It affects everything from our immune system to our hormones. And again, these things are measurable. It's very, very impressive to look at that specific science and research, which is coming more and more to fruition every single day. So that will be a big part of what I bring you on future Cabral Concepts as well. So knowing that our mind affects our body, and let's say that we want our body to have more energy, our body to be healthier, not have that autoimmune issue or digestive issue or skin-based issue or migraines, whatever it might be, right? Then we need to make sure that part of the way in which we get well is that we begin to change our mindset. That was such a big thing for me, because I was doing a lot of the right things for my body. I wasn't doing them all right. I still had to work on my gut. I still didn't fix the candida and the SIBO and the H. pylori and all the other things I had going on as well. I had to fix that, of course. But a lot of things that I was doing with my mind was keeping me stuck in a state of sickness. So what I had to do is I had to calm my issues with anger and unhappiness with being sick in the first place. I had to calm my regret of the way that I lived when I was younger, meaning like I didn't feel like it was in line with who I wanted to be. And so I had to heal a lot of those things. But when I took this test, when I went back to school, I was already 90% better, right? I had 90% of the way there. But when I envisioned what my life could be and why I got sick in the first place, I could better understand where I came from, why I got sick, and then also how I would not get sick in the future, how I would keep my body healthy. And so that's why I want to share this with you today. I'm going to go through the entire stress scale with you, but I also will give you a link. I'll post the actual questions. There's 43 questions. So I'm going to read them to you. Very, very simple and straightforward. But also, I'm going to post the quiz at today's podcast, where the show notes are over at stephencabral.com/920. So I'll post the scale and quiz right over there. I think it would be great for you to take. I took it again myself. And I remember taking it many, many years ago as well. So what the scale is called the Holmes Rahe Stress Scale. And the official name way back in 1967 was called the Holmes Rahe Life Stress Inventory. And it was written up as called the Social Readjustment Rating Scale. It was published, as I said, in 1967, and I'll give you the specific journal it was written up in, so you can look that up if you choose to. And that was the Journal of Psychosomatic Research, Volume 11, Issue number 2, August 1967. Call under the Social Readjustment Rating Scale by Thomas Holmes and Richard Rahe. So I want to get right into this, and here's what I want you to be thinking as you're going through it. It's basically binary. It's a yes or a no question, and that's it. And then I'm going to give my take on it at the end, other things that it does not take into account, and also how we can look at the inverse of all of the answers that you gave as well in order to truly create the life that you want. So the 43 statements are this. It's either a yes or a no. So they are weighted questions. The ones that have the largest weight to them, meaning that they are going to affect your health to the greatest degree, are written first all the way down to the bottom. Now, what is the whole point of this scale? Well, they found, this was over 5,000 people that it was done on, that people with the highest scores were the people that were going to get an illness or sickness within the next year to 2 years. Why is that so important? It's important to understand, and I've spoken about this before, and again, you can lab test it on a adrenal hormone test or a thyroid adrenal hormone test, that you'll know, like you won't feel it, but you'll know that your stress is increasing, and in the beginning, you start to feel superhuman, like you feel great. You don't need as much sleep, right? Because you're running on what? Anxious energy. You're running on norepinephrine and adrenaline, and you're running on cortisol, and your body's cranking to keep up with the stress. You're in true fight or flight. And I was in that myself, and I felt fine. Okay, I had insomnia. I didn't need to sleep. I had energy the next day. And then all of a sudden, I crashed. My body could no longer keep up with the stress and demands on it. So you do have to understand that skills like this, quizzes like this, are very important to give yourself a little bit of lead time in order to break the vicious cycle so that you can begin to heal before you actually get so depleted that you burn out. And when you do burn out, you end up with the autoimmune-based issue, right? The migraines, the adrenal-based fatigue, the hypothyroidism, all of those things, they do not come overnight. That's the most important thing. That the differentiator with natural health is that we can find these things ahead of time with functional medicine testing, where conventional medicine, again, no issues with conventional medicine, the great acute-based care, but they only have blood work to deal with. And if you only have blood work to look at, you cannot look at the body at a tissue level of what's going on in terms of the saliva, the waste products in terms of the urine and the stool and hair tissue mineral analysis. So important to be able to look at all the different areas of the body, the compartments of the body that tell you so much more than the blood, which is great and it is important. And we look at in my practice, but that's a homeostatic fluid that will continue to rob from the bones, rob from other tissues of the body in order to make sure that the blood has everything that it needs to feed all the different systems of your body so that when it needs the material at that time. All right, let's get right into the quiz. Hopefully you understand how important this is to assess the stress in your life so that we're better able to deal with it on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis to keep ourselves healthy and strong. All right, the first one is this: death of a spouse. It's a yes or a no. Number 2 is divorce. Number 3 is marital separation. You should be actually just saying to yourself yes or no, okay? And then I'll link up how to take the quiz yourself so that you get your official score at the end, and I'll give you what the scores should be for health and for those that are leading towards potentially more illness. Number 4 is a jail term. Number 5 is a death of a close family member. Number 6 is personal injury or an illness. That's rated at 53, okay? Where a death of a spouse is rated at 100. Marriage. So getting married, although it can be a great, great event, right? A time of happiness, also a time of stress. Getting fired at work, a marital reconciliation, meaning getting back together. Number 10 is retirement, right? Because there's a lot of questions. There's a lot of unknown. There's a lot of things that you need to figure out with your finances, etc., of what you're going to do with your life now that you're not working. And that's why it comes in at number 10. Number 11 is a change in health of a family member, a sick child or a sick parent or a sibling. Number 12 is pregnancy, getting pregnant, starting a family. Number 13 is difficulties with sex, whether it is an unhappy relationship, whether it's erectile-based dysfunction, anything that it might be, but sex difficulties comes in at number 13. Number 14 is the gain or addition of a new family member. Number 15 is a business readjustment, changing work environment, changing work location. Number 16 is a change in financial state, whether you're gaining more income and what to do with that or on how that might change your life. But more importantly, maybe there might be a loss in income as well. Number 17 is the death of a close friend. Number 18 is change to a different line of work, right? So you're going from finance to health coaching, or you're going from, I can't even think of any other fields right now as I'm going through this podcast specifically. It's like my mind, I work with so many people in the finance and entrepreneurship world, and then there's health. But any different field, you're switching locations to something new. And again, it could be very exciting, but there's also a lot of stress around that as well. Number 19 is a change in the number of arguments with a spouse. Number 20 is a large mortgage or loan that you have to think about over and over on how to pay that. Number 21 is a foreclosure of a mortgage or a loan. Number 22 is a change in responsibilities at work, taking on more responsibilities or something different that you might not be accustomed to. Number 23 is a change, or I should say a son or daughter leaving home to move out on their own, to go to college. Again, could be a great thing, but quite a bit of stress on that parent. Number 24 is trouble with the in-laws. Number 25 is an outstanding personal achievement. So something that you've done great at, but what about the stress that comes along with that, right? Different accolades, different people looking at you differently, whatever it might be. Number 26 is a spouse begins or stops working. So a change in family dynamic. 27 is begin or end college or some type of school. Number 28 is a change in living locations, okay? Changing homes, changing states. Number 29 is a revision of personal habits, beginning a new personal routine. With that comes a little bit of stress, and that's rated as a number 24. That's the amount of weight given to that in terms of points. Number 30 is a trouble with the boss. Number 31 is a change in work hours or conditions, meaning longer work hours typically or worse conditions. Number 32 is a change in residence. Okay, change in residence would be close to a change in your living conditions, but this would be actually a change in location most likely. Number 33 is a change in school or college. So you're switching schools or switching colleges. Number 34 is a change in recreational activities, okay? So different things you're doing, different hobbies, picking up something new. Number 35 is a change in church activities. Number 36 is a change in social activities. So a lot of these are great things, right? But along with them, it's the newness that creates the stress. Number 37 is a moderate loan or mortgage, okay? So not stress around a large mortgage, but you still have a loan or mortgage or some type of payment that kind of lingers over your head that you still have to pay. You know you can pay it, but it's still that stress at the end of the month. Number 38 is a change in sleeping habits, typically for the worse. So a change in sleeping habits is going from pretty sound sleep to not being able to fall asleep at night or waking up once a night or twice a night. Number 39 is a change in the number of family get-togethers, all right? More family get-togethers can be more stress, or less, you don't get to see family as much because you may have moved out of state. Number 40 is a change in eating habits, all right? Typically, it's for the worse, but oftentimes it can also be a change in a healthy nutrition. For example, when someone begins our Candida and bacterial overgrowth protocol or our Dr. Cabral detox, it's a change in eating habits, and they do have to adjust to that. Now, the results will be great in the long run, but it will take them about 2 to 3 weeks to adjust in that. And during that time, there'll be a bit of a change, maybe a little bit of stress. Good stress, of course, of what it leads to, but still a different in change. Number 41 is a vacation. Again, not weighted with a lot of points, but certainly a little bit of stress around that. Why would there be stress? Well, there's planning for the vacation. There's making the flights. There's what are you going to do on vacation? There's just a little bit added responsibility and stress around that. Number 42 is Christmas or the holidays, right? It's a great time of the year. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I love the Christmas season. It's my favorite season. After that, I don't really want to live in the cold New England area, but I love living in the New England area during Christmas. We go up to Maine for the Christmas parade with my 2 little girls, and then we're in Boston and we're seeing family that's all around the Boston area. There might even be snow on the ground. Amazing, but there's all the different stress. There's gift buying and giving, and there's more get-togethers, and there's work, obligations. There's all those different things. Number 43, and the very last one, is a minor violation of the law, like a speeding ticket, right? And maybe having to go to court for that speeding ticket. Any one of those things is only weighted at an 11 points versus the very first one, which is weighted at 100 points. Now, how does this work? Well, you're going to add up your total score. And again, I will give you the link, but remember, the more that you said yes to, keep in mind, the more you said yes to, especially in the beginning, the higher your chances for becoming ill or becoming unhealthier in the near future. So, for example, those who scored anywhere from a 0 or an 11, they started 11, to 150, have a low to moderate chance of becoming ill in the near future. 150 points to 299 points have a moderate to high chance of becoming ill in the near future. And then 300 to 600 have a very high to high risk of becoming ill in the near future. This is very interesting to me because I want to go through this. I want you to understand is that the only drawback for a test like this and a quiz like this is that sometimes they're weighted differently for different people. So some people whose work means so much to them, and that's about middle of the way down, that might actually affect them at a higher level. So never discount for you what has a really heavy weight to it that really weighs on you could be a higher total. But why I want to give this a little bit of context, why it's so important. I didn't have this when I was 15, 16, 17 years old when I got sick at 17. But if I'm looking at this, during that time, I was getting ready to start a new school, right? Go off to college, leave all my friends that I've been friends with forever, leave previous relationships that I had in high school that I was taking on, obviously, and I was leaving my residence. I was dealing with some health issues at the time, allergies and digestive issues and skin issues. I was still exercising, doing all those things. I was working while at the same time going to school. So there was all of these things going on. My score, when I added up, would have been closer to the 400 to 500 range. And in that range, I had a very high risk of becoming ill in the near future. And of course, I did get sick. Now, I got sick because of the stress I was under with wanting to perform on my SATs, with wanting to get in the best college that I could, with the stress of my friendships in high school, even to this day, mean a lot to me. And they're some of my closest friends. Dating, all of those things in high school. And then you also have, I was working at the same time while going to school. All of that was leading to massive amounts of stress. Leaving my family, I was the oldest of my family. I was going to be leaving everyone. There was a lot of stress. Now, combine that then with taking antibiotics twice a day for 3 years straight, and also, of course, all through my childhood, led me to basically not only my body breaking down, but my entire immune system becoming dysfunctional, where I got to the point where I couldn't heal the body, right? So that led me to that illness, that state. And that's why I always want to tell you, and people, that's a lot of times the first consultation we ever do with someone, or even if they run a lab test, whatever lab test it might be through equilibriumnutrition.com, is that we like to let people know there's always a reason why. And a lot of people don't understand that it's actually the stress that they're under. They might be eating well. They might be exercising the right amounts. They might be living a pretty good lifestyle. They might be getting the sleep. But the stress side is so great that it's so strong that it overwhelms all the positive lifestyle things that they're doing. And because of that, really the main thing that they need to do in order to heal their body is continue with all the great things they're doing from a health standpoint, but also begin to get the stress under control. I cannot stress to you enough that really we see in my practice, and conventional medicine is leaning this way as well because there's many articles written on it, that over 90% of all the illnesses that we have right now are related to stress in some fashion. And I write about it in the rain barrel effect, and I call it one of those toxins, is that as you begin to fill up your rain barrel, sure, there's heavy metals and there's SIBO, bacterial overgrowth in your gut. There might be candida and there might be improper eating and all of these different things, right? There's a lot that goes into it, the pesticides and everything in the environment. But there's also stress. And a lot of times, the triggering event for when people get ill is the breakup of a relationship, the death of a loved one, or the responsibility now of leaving college and having to kind of go into the workplace. So I see so much of that in my practice. And again, all I'm trying to do is share with you what I see on a daily basis. That if it can resonate with you, if you can start to understand that much of the time, the way in which we get well, the way that we get to live the best life that we can is by beginning to lower stress in all ways possible. I do not believe that we can totally eliminate stress from our lives, nor do we even really want to. It's part of the human condition. It's part of us being a human being. It's part of us struggling through life to then be able to appreciate all of the amazing things that we do have in life. I don't think that we can escape losing people in our life, whether it's relationships or whether it might be, of course, the death of a close friend or family member, right? And oftentimes, some of that, for the most part, when it comes to, obviously, those relationships with the loss of a loved one, that's out of our control. But what we have to do is begin to reframe our overall mindset and outlook on life. And as we go through this quiz, we'll call it, or this Holmes Rahe inventory stress scale, is we can do a few things, right? We can understand that we don't have control over the death of a spouse. But we do have a fair amount of control over our relationships. And many of these that we talked about on this stress scale were about relationships. We're relationships with friends and relationships with our partner, right? Or future spouse or partner. And what I see a lot of the times with relationships is that there's just not enough communication. And again, I'm not a marriage counselor and I'm certainly not a relationship-based therapist. But what I am is an observer of human beings. I'm an observer of myself. I look from the outside and say, okay, without judgment, what could improve in this situation? And a lot of times, what can improve in relationships is that people simply do not share with the other person how they're feeling. That's it. They keep it inside and they expect then the other person to change and to give them more of what they're looking for. And what I can tell you from personal experience and those that I see in my practice, that unless you open yourself up, unless you become a little bit vulnerable with coworkers at work or your spouse or partner or boss or anyone, without letting them know how you truly feel, do not attribute malice, meaning they're doing something intentionally wrong to you, for just ignorance. They simply don't understand what you are looking for. And that's one of the difficulties I really do see in relationships is that if my wife and I are in a disagreement, if we're in an argument, the both of us love each other. We don't want to be angry with each other. We're not looking to be upset. We know that the other person probably isn't trying to hurt us, right? So we just have to say, where was the breakdown? Where was the miscommunication? Where's the misunderstanding? Sometimes you will have different viewpoints. And that's okay because you're allowed to be individuals as long as you respect the other person's opinion. You don't have to agree on everything. But much of the time, you just didn't see the perspective from which they were looking at things. Now, myself, like at work or other places, like I always say to myself, you can't get upset right now because you're probably not looking at it from the perspective they are. Ask them. They're not telling you, but ask them, why did they do this, right? If you ask why and you do it from a state of being open, I just feel like if we were able to communicate on that level, be a little bit more open, a little bit more vulnerable, not trying to win every conversation, then we'd be so much happier in general. Remember, for so many of us out there, if our partner, if our coworkers, if other people are happy around us, we're happier ourselves. I know that if my family is happy, I'm happier. If they're upset, I'm not as happy. Now, I don't have to be upset. I can choose that or not. But I'd be a whole lot happier if they were happy. And I think that goes for most of us. We want those around us in our life to be happier, which means communicating, understanding why they're not happy, and doing what you can then to help them to the best of your ability, just to the best of your ability. That's all you can ask. That will then lower the stress in all of your relationships to a greater level. And with work is another big thing, careers. You have to understand that I really believe this. And into your 60s, I do believe you should be able to do the work that you love. Now, maybe it's part-time. Maybe you're just carving out one day a week, or maybe you're carving out some evenings, or maybe you're doing it part-time, whatever it might be. You should be able to engage in work that you love and build a career out of it. And I'm not saying you can't do it in your 70s and 80s. I'm not saying that at all. Because I actually believe that you give yourself another 12 years on this planet, and the advances in keeping people alive longer and hopefully healthier will be there. I do not believe 100 years and up will be out of the question or even not the norm in another 20 to 30 years from now. So we need to keep ourselves healthy now in order to have a good quality of life to be able to enjoy those years. Now, when you're 70 years old, you're looking at 30 to 40 more years, right? Rather than maybe 15 to 20 or more, okay? So again, you can look at it from whatever perspective you want. But what I'm saying is this, is that for 8 hours a day for most people, you're engaged in work that you hope to have meaning. And if you're doing work right now to be able to pay the bills, I respect that. I did that for many years myself. But understand that you can be then working towards something that you're more passionate about, that will give you more energy, more charge in life. You can do that on a part-time basis. You can spend an hour a day during your lunch or a half hour upon waking, a half hour at lunch before you get home at night, studying for the certification or studying for whatever you want or writing the articles or beginning the podcast. You can do all of those things. And little by little, if you spend 1 hour a day, and we're looking at 365 days in a year, it's just 1 hour a day. You can do it every day of the week, right? Every day of the week. Stay on target. 365 hours a year, that's a tremendous amount of input. 365 days a year is over 9 weeks of full-time work. Think about that. It's an amazing figure right there, right? You're looking at 52 weeks in a year. Let's say that's about 10. You're looking at almost 20%. 20% full-time right there on that just 1 hour per day. So you can accomplish so much. In terms of spirituality, which is one of my big 5 that I talk about each and every Mindset and Motivation Monday, spirituality for very few people doesn't happen in an instant. You don't have this awakening in an instant, this moment, this aha moment where everything changes. It's a gradual process by beginning to see the world differently. And as you begin to change on an internal scale by doing more reading, by listening to more podcasts, by just living a life as a student and learning about this world, you begin to change. You begin to see the world differently, and that leads to more of this so-called enlightened state. You change, and when you change, the world changes around you because you begin to look at things in a different light. The world has not changed, but it's changed for you. You see things differently. You see people differently. You no longer judge in the same way because you understand there are different types of people. There are different types of body types. There are different types of somatotype psychology makeups, right? And then there are those who just haven't maybe reached the level that you have in terms of understanding or gratitude or ambition or any of those things. And that does not mean that those people are not necessarily good people or on your level. It has nothing to do with that. They're in a different state. They're living in their world, and that's okay as well. You begin to understand that who you want to be is all about you. It's about you understanding what you want to leave as a mark in this world. It's about your place in the world and allowing people to be them, not needing to change them, but you needing to change you. We always see so many faults and so many issues with those around us. And again, I was the same exact way. You know, there's issues at work, there's issues of relationships, there's issues with friends, there's issues with everyone, right? But really what we need to look at is it's our viewpoint. It's our subjective view on the world. And as we begin to understand that most people are simply making the decisions in life and moving through their life to the best of their ability, we begin to see less fault with those people. They're doing the best with the information they had at hand. Don't you believe I wanted to get well at 17 years old? Don't you believe that all of the doctors and specialists in conventional medicine wanted to help me get well? Of course they did. They did not have the perspective in order to do that. However, things didn't change with the doctors that I saw a couple years after that who knew what to do. But the doctors that I went to, the specialists simply didn't have the education, the understanding from a total holistic and systemic standpoint in order to help me heal. So remember, nothing changed in the world. I found information then that then changed me. Now it's my job today to share that information with the rest of the world so that hopefully it resonates with a few people. It allows them to live their best life, and then hopefully those people are then able to teach others. I truly believe if we begin to understand more about ourselves, if we take things like this Holmes Rahe quiz, we begin to see where are the parts in our life that are causing the greatest amounts of stress. Then we know what to work on. Because so few of us, we're in a funk, we're in a low mood, we don't feel that zest and vitality for life, but we don't know where to start. Well, it's quizzes like this, it's doing the self-evaluations, it's becoming more self-aware. When you're truly willing to understand that you are not a perfect person, nor will you ever be, nor should you be, then you begin to accept some of the areas of your life where you may have fallen short. But those are the exact areas when you become better at those, right? In a gentle perspective where you don't get angry at yourself or need to change tomorrow. But where you begin to improve those certain areas of your life, everything begins to improve. That includes your health, it includes your mindset, your relationships, your spirituality, everything with your career because you have so much more to give. Hopefully today's podcast was helpful. If it was, please do feel free to share it with anyone else you believe it could serve. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Cabral Concept, and be sure to tune in tomorrow for another episode of the Cabral Concept. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.